How's it everybody, and welcome back to our channel.
So as you guys can tell from the title, today we're doing a fun story time and telling you all about our 42-hour travel day from our workaway in the UK to our workaway in France.
We are Sarah and Marek. For the past few years, we've been saving up to go traveling, and we finally set off to travel full time. Currently, we are lucky enough to be in the French Alps, staying in a little mountain village called Sainte-Marie. We've been here for the past 2 months and have loved every moment. We were even fortunate enough to spend our first white Christmas here together. Subscribe and come along for our budget adventures.
So this trip was interesting to say the least, with more than a couple of curveballs thrown into the mix. All we can say is when we eventually did reach our workaway in France, we were just about ready to kiss the ground.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning. It's the 4th of December, 2020, and we wake up, we look outside, and it's snowing. Now, at this point, we were really excited for snow because we were about to take this trip to go into the French Alps. But the last thing that we expected was to have snow while we were still in the UK. So, in classic kid style, we threw on some warm clothes and ran outside to play in the snow. Fast forward to 8 p.m. that evening, our taxi arrived outside and it was time to go to the train station for our first train ride. Now, throughout this whole journey, we were very overcautious because we were nervous to miss any of our train rides or flights or anything that was already pre-booked, because we were really nervous it would have a domino effect and cause us to miss other train rides and flights and everything that was already all in place and all booked. In hindsight, we were probably very overcautious, but at the time it seemed like the right thing to do. So we were at the train station about an hour and a half early for our train, and that was only the beginning of a lot of waiting around.
So we caught our train and we headed straight into London King's Cross. Now, when we got there, it was a bit of a ghost town and lots of the entrances to get to the subway were closed. So after fumbling around for quite a few minutes with our heavy hiking packs and all of our bags on us, we managed to find our way into the subway. When we got down there were only a handful of people waiting for the train, which is understandable because it was 11 o'clock at night. But anyway, we managed to get onto the train and we settled in for what we thought would be a pleasant train ride moving forward. Fast forward a couple of stops and we seem to have gone through the party central of London. All of a sudden the train was packed, there's people everywhere, people were rowdy, drinks were flowing. We even nearly witnessed a full-blown boxing match take place between friends who luckily managed to settle their differences before this all escalated out of control. We did exchange quite a few wide-eyed glances at each other during this trip, but we were just so thankful when we eventually did make it to Heathrow.
So we made our way slowly but surely up to the entrance of the Heathrow Airport. Now, it was a bit of a gamble because we weren't entirely sure whether we'd be able to wait inside the airport until our check-in was open. So that was quite a few hours away. But as we approached the entrance of the airport, the sliding doors opened and whoosh, we went inside into the nice warm heating area. Found a spot to sit on the floor with a nice plug socket and some space to lie down, and I passed out for about 3 hours while Marek got up to some editing. Enjoy this very flattering photo of me sleeping on the airport floor.
Now this part still makes us chuckle to this day. So our 4-hour wait had passed and the check-in line had just started to open. Now when we got there, we had seen that there was 50 plus people waiting in line, but we also did spot that there was a self-service check-in machine waiting there as well. So we decided, you know what, let's just go and see if we can check in so we don't have to wait in this line. So we go there, everything is going well, we get Sarah's bags checked in, we get a boarding pass, we get my boarding pass, but we ran into a problem. They didn't allow me to book my bag in for some reason, and we still don't understand why. So we restarted this process a number of times, restart, all for no success. As we gave up and were heading back to go to the back of the line, they literally opened up the check-in right in front of us. So all of a sudden, we are now in third place in a line of 50 plus people. So what any normal person would do? We just proceeded, walked with our heads held high, and we just walked straight through the line. This saved us a lot of time, and we still, like we say, we still can't believe this to this day. Now, because we are traveling with hiking bags instead of normal suitcases, we always have to go and check in our bags at the abnormal baggage section. And luckily for this flight as well, because it was so full, they allowed every passenger to check in an extra luggage item. And this was very convenient for us because we actually did have an extra luggage item that we thought we'd have to pay for. But anyway, we put our bags on the conveyor belt and we waved them goodbye. It was at this moment that I realized that I had packed our main camera into this extra luggage item that had no protection on it, no lock, not wrapped in plastic or anything. The thought dawned on us that we have just lost our camera.
I literally remember Marek was like, he literally just stopped. And I was like, what's wrong?
This was quite a heavy moment.
Yeah.
So we said a little prayer for our camera that we like to call Bridget and moved on. There was nothing that we could do at this point.
So boarding was pretty smooth sailing, and we were so excited when we hopped onto that plane because we knew, okay, we're going to France now, this is amazing. And we actually just ended up passing out for most of that flight because we were so tired from the night of traveling already. But for the few moments that I was awake, I actually got chatting to the girl who was sitting next to me and found out that she had also studied law and her name was also Sarah. It was so weird. But she had studied law at Cambridge, she had been practicing in London, and now she was moving to the British Virgin Isles. So that was a really interesting conversation. But anyway, as we're starting to come in for landing, Sarah started expressing how she was nervous that she wasn't going to have enough time to get to her next flight. And we had even compared boarding times with her and noticed that we had the same amount of time, about 2 hours to get to our next flight. So we were a bit confused, not sure why she's nervous. We have 2 hours to get to the next flight. But little did we know that we had actually passed over a time zone and we had gained an hour. So we didn't have as much time as we thought we had. And we only discovered that when we had already disembarked the plane and we were now looking at the board that tells you where your next boarding gate is and how much time it'll take you to get there. And at the bottom of that screen, there was the time. And we had a double take where we were like, that's not the same time as our watch. And so we saw that we obviously had less time, and the board was also telling us it would take us about half an hour to walk to our next boarding gate. So we saw that and literally just started running. And the funny thing is, all throughout that run through the airport, all we could smell were freshly baked croissants. Classic.
So we luckily made it in time to board this next flight, but this one was not nearly as pleasant as the first one. Firstly, we weren't sitting next to each other, which is always a bummer. And honestly, this is what it sounded like for the entire duration of that flight. After we landed, and with our ears still ringing from the baby screaming, it was full steam ahead and we went straight towards collecting our baggage. As we collected our bags, the first thing we looked for was our camera. We opened the zip, looked inside, and found that our camera was still there, untouched, in perfect working condition.
We were stoked.
We now had to find our way to the train station.
Now, all throughout our journey, we had bad calls made by a couple of rookie backpackers who were more than a little bit lost for most of this journey. And if any of you guys have similar travel stories and blunders that you could share with us in the comments below, we'd love to read through those and chat with you guys in the comments. But here comes our first rookie error. We didn't make sure that we bought food or just got something to eat before leaving the airport. Like we said earlier, we were really nervous throughout the whole trip to miss any of our trains or flights or buses or anything. So we just were like full steam ahead, racing for the bus stop and not thinking about anything else. And we had read up on online before taking this trip that there was actually a free bus shuttle that went from the Marseille airport to the train station nearby. So we were like, great, this is fantastic. Only to discover when we got to the bus stop that the bus ride was not actually free anymore, and it was €2 each to take the bus. Now, this would have been perfect. It's not that much money. Rookie error number 2. We didn't draw any euro before taking this trip. So the next few stressful minutes were spent trying to pay for the bus ticket with our card first, and then trying with our pounds that we had left over. And all the while communicating in very broken English with our French bus driver, who was actually really, really friendly, and he actually ended up letting us come onto the bus for free after they couldn't accept our card or our pounds. So we're really, really grateful to this friendly bus driver.
So this is where things get a little bit interesting. So this 15-minute train ride that we were supposed to take from this station to the main train station was the only part of the journey that we had not pre-booked. This was to give us a bit of breathing room in case something had gone wrong leading up until this point. So we get to the train station and it is empty. We try to book a ticket at the ticket office, but we quickly learn that the ticket office is closed. We luckily managed to find a little ticket machine that is all in French. We knew which station we were at and which station we needed to get to. So for the next few minutes, we tried our best to navigate this machine that was all in French, but we luckily ended up getting the tickets that we needed to. And this is where it also gets interesting. Everything was all going well, smooth sailing up until the point where it asked us to pay for the tickets. We put our card in and it asked us for a PIN code.
So up until this point, we had been using that international bank card of ours very successfully in the UK and just tapping everywhere. Nowhere it really required you to type in a PIN up until this point.
So for the next very stressful 20 minutes, we were trying to find a way to pay for these tickets because we still could not remember what our PIN was. And we also didn't have any internet reception to go onto our app to find our PIN. But luckily, Sarah came up with a very clever idea.
I realized that we were being so silly. We still had our bank cards, our South African bank cards, and we could literally just use those to pay.
So we managed to get our tickets all good and happy.
So moments after successfully buying our tickets, out of nowhere, this ticket officer appears, and he was our first saving grace for that day. He could tell that we were confused and more than a little bit lost, so he asked us where we were going and what tickets we had, and he actually went on to explain to us how our journey would pan out for the rest of our trip. So in our minds, we had 2 more trains to catch and then we'd be at our final destination. Little did we know, we still had a 15-minute train ride, a 3-hour bus ride, and an hour-long train ride to get to our final destination. So we were really grateful that he explained all this to us and even went on to reimburse us for a ticket that we'd overpaid for. So he was really great. And he also told us some sad news that there were no shops around for us to buy food, and we were really banking on buying food because we hadn't eaten for so many hours and there was a long wait there, so we wanted to use that time to do that. But anyway, our 2-hour wait at the empty train station started, and all we had were 2 oranges and a couple of plain tortilla wraps to keep our hunger pains at bay.
So now our 2-hour wait had passed. We were finally on the train to the main train station in Marseille. Now, although we didn't have any bad experiences, the ticket officer told us that Marseille can be a particularly dangerous place, so we did keep our belongings close to us. Once we eventually arrived at the train station, we breathed a sigh of relief as we finally made it there, and we headed straight to look for the bus that we needed to take. We spoke to a very friendly staff member who pointed us in the right direction and told us exactly where we could find the bus. It was at this point that we were feeling more at ease, and we even managed to find a restaurant where we could get some nice food. At this point, it was 20 hours since we had last eaten a proper meal. So that meal was amazing, to say the least.
So good. It was while we were sitting there eating this food that was just so incredibly good that I noticed on a board nearby that there was a bus going to the same place where we needed to go, but it was a different bus line.
So in South Africa, when you book a bus ticket and you book it for a particular bus liner, you can only go with that particular bus liner. You can't swap and change and go in between different bus liners. So for this one, it was booked with a different bus liner. So we thought to ourselves, no.
We made a judgment call.
We made a judgment call and we said that we wouldn't take this bus.
And we went on to regret this decision because it changed the rest of our trip. So we decided not to take that bus and we waited it out, and then when it came time, closer time to when our bus was supposed to leave, we went outside to the platform to wait, and there wasn't a bus there. Now, we were a bit confused by this, and Marek went to speak to the same friendly ticket officer person again and asked her, does anyone know where the train is? And her response, the bus. The bus, and her response was very worrying because she said, no one knows where the bus is. So now we had alarm bells going off in our heads because even if the bus had been on time, we only had a 15-minute window to catch our last train for the day. So we stood there and waited, but we were slightly reassured because there were other people waiting with us and they were going to the same place. So we thought, surely, there'll be some solution for all of us. So it came to 5 o'clock, then it was 5:15, and then it was 5:30, and there was still no bus. And we were just waiting there and just wondering, okay, now what next? What do we do now? Then we noticed on a nearby board that there was another bus going to that same station that we needed to get to, but once again it was a different bus line and it was leaving at 6 o'clock. And again we were nervous because of what we said earlier about the different bus lines. We just weren't sure if they would let us take that bus.
And this was the final bus for the day, so this was our last hope for getting to our place for the day.
So we thought, okay, we were playing with ideas. How are we going to explain this to the French bus driver? Once again, it's that language barrier as well. So we thought, okay, best solution, confidence is key. We're just going to go there. We packed our bags into the baggage area of the bus, went to the entrance, stood in the line and handed our tickets over to the bus driver, held our breath, and he took our tickets, scanned them, and just led us onto the bus. He didn't even blink an eye.
We now had a touch under 3 hours to make it to the next train station on a bus trip that would take us at least 3 hours and 15 minutes. Shortly after we left, we quickly passed out and slept for most of the trip there. We would, however, wake up in a fright every time the bus would hit a bump to see if we still stood a chance of making it in time. After this trip, we eventually made it to the mountain-based town of Gap at exactly 12 minutes past 9, we were set to catch our last connecting train for this voyage. We made it to the train station only to realize that the train had left 12 minutes before we had arrived.
And the train station was now closed. So we're standing outside, it's just started snowing, we have no reception, we have no food, we don't know where we're going to go for the night, and we're just stranded. So we managed to flag down some guys that were inside the train station just to ask them if there was any chance we could sleep inside the station for the night, and unfortunately they just said that that was not possible. Bummer. So we're standing outside, it's 10 o'clock at night, it's just started snowing, and the thought of sleeping outside in sub-zero temperatures was becoming a real possibility.
So after trying to get into a hotel that was already closed, we managed to see a taxi that had pulled up just a few meters away from us. I quickly ran over to this taxi and through some very, very broken English, tried to explain our situation to him. He said to us that we just needed to wait right where we were and he would be back in 15 minutes to help us. Now, we were both very skeptical as to whether he would come back for us or not. This guy ended up becoming our second saving grace for our journey. Not only did he return 15 minutes later to help us, but he had also phoned around the local hotels to see who could take us in at this very late hour. On top of all of this, he also arranged for a nice warm meal that was waiting for us upon our arrival at the hotel. Now, we just have to mention that staying in hotels goes against everything that we strive for when trying to travel on a budget. But the thought of staying somewhere warm indoors for the night where we had a warm meal waiting for us was far too good an offer to give up. We ate some delicious lasagna, some chocolate mousse, and rested up, reflecting on everything that the past 27 hours had thrown at us.
So we woke up feeling refreshed and ready to try again. We headed downstairs to ask the hotel manager if he knew of a way for us to find a taxi, and he actually ended up offering to drive us to the train station, saving us an extra 20 euros.
Now, I just have to mention here as well, this particular man at the hotel, he was polite but not overly friendly towards us for our whole stay there. But his whole attitude changed the moment that Sarah asked what his dog's name was, but in French. Now, this really was, and I still think this, and I'll always think this was the reason why he ended up offering to take us to the train station. So it's a very good lesson to learn that no matter how silly you think you are, always just try to speak in a person's native language. They will really, really appreciate it.
And we've seen that time and time again with our experiences here with the people. The moment that you just try to speak to them in their language or communicate anything, it's like it changes the whole situation around. Not that we've had negative experiences anyway, but it changes things. So we headed to the train station. We waited 2 hours for our train. And then we headed out to the platform where our train was supposed to be waiting for us. Now, this train station was really quiet, so there were literally no trains. There hadn't been any trains coming through in the previous 2 hours that we'd been waiting there. And there was only one train outside, but it was at a different platform to the platform where our train was supposed to be. So we thought, okay, that can't be our train. So we were waiting on our platform, and once again there were a couple of people around us, so we asked the guy standing next to us where he was going, and he was also catching the same train as us. Moments later, there was a French announcement over the intercom, and our new friend quickly told us that we better run because that train was our train and it was about to leave. So we quickly rushed over and managed to make it just in time.
So our camera has actually just died, so we've had to swap onto another one. Okay, but going back to that story. So now we're on the train, and you guys have to remember that we didn't get new tickets for this train journey. We were still using the tickets on the previous night's journey that we were supposed to take. So this whole time we were sitting there hoping that the conductor doesn't come through and ask for our tickets. But of course, she came through and she asked for our tickets. Very gingerly, we handed over our tickets to her. Didn't make too much eye contact, just kind of glanced over to see what was happening. She scanned our tickets and we held our breath. She scanned the tickets, moved on, and we had no problems. This was the final hurdle for us to overcome, and we were so happy that we were finally on our way to our final destination.
And this was such a beautiful train ride. Oh my gosh. Now we could finally relax. We were passing these bright blue, beautiful lakes and the snowy mountains, which were just so mesmerizing to us. We couldn't stop looking out the windows. And finally, we arrived at our last train station for the journey in Montefine, and we were so happy. We stepped out into this thick snow and walked into the station, and we were just so happy. So after a few moments of waiting, our host arrived to pick us up from the train station, and she is honestly one of the nicest people we have ever met. Her name is Raphael, and her husband Christoph. They came to pick us up from the train station, and we packed our bags into the car, strapped on our seatbelts, and we were so excited, and we knew that some exciting new experiences lay just over the horizon. So although this was a very bumpy ride along this whole journey and we made a lot of mistakes, we did learn a lot from this journey, and we feel like future trips that we take will probably go a bit smoother because we now know what not to do. But if you guys have any interesting travel stories, we would love to hear about them and have a good chuckle at any travel blunders that you have done as well. So let us know in the comments down below.
Now, we just have to mention as well, it's no secret that people have some negative feelings towards the French people, just about being unfriendly and things like that. But honestly, during our entire time here, we have had a completely opposite experience. The French people have been so incredibly hospitable and so incredibly friendly towards us, and they've honestly all just made us feel like we're part of their family. And we're just so grateful for everything that the French people have done for us during our time here. But if this story has given you guys a few chuckles, don't forget to smash that like button, and remember to let us know in the comments down below any of your interesting travel stories, and subscribe so that you can carry on and join in on the rest of our travel stories and hear any other budget travel tips moving forward. And we'll see you guys back this coming Tuesday.
Our taxi arrives and it's ready to take us to the train station for our first train ride of the journey.
Oh boy.
Oh no, is she wanting to come in here?
I hope not.
Okay, my leg's properly dead now. Okay.
Oh boy.